Guys, um, so I figured I'd do a video for my 10,000 mile milestone for my Yamaha Wolverine X4. It's been a long journey. Thing's been very solid and reliable. Has never left me stranded. Still walk around here. Figured I'll go over all the accessories, all the mods I've done, and I want to thank Yamaha for letting me test a lot of these accessories, a lot of the OEM parts, aftermarket upgrades. So first things first. Everyone pretty much knows about Yamaha's reliability. I'm pretty confident that a lot of people can get 10,000 miles. Maybe not some of you mutters, but if you're a typical trail rider like me and you do your maintenance, I have no reason to believe you can go and get 10,000 miles. I am using synthetic fluids in the engine, front and rear diff, and transmission. I don't care what brand synthetic you use. If you use Yamalube 4T, or if you use any wet clutch approved engine oil, or non-energy, non-resource conserving oil. Synthetic's the key. And I made a 9,000 mile post where I've shown the internals of my engine and other components and how clean they are. I'm a firm believer in synthetics. I don't think Yamaha makes synthetic oil for their gearboxes, so I'm using Mobil 175W90. I'm also using some additives that HunterWorks came out in the past year or so. Gear butter and engine butter. They're based off the nanoparticle technology that's in their greaseless sheave formulation, slightly modified for specific gear and engine use. So I think I could, if I were to keep this, I could put 20,000 miles on it or more. Let's start at the front here. I'm using the OEM full windshield. Fits like a glove. I don't have the problem others have with my roof not meeting at the corner here. Mine fits like a glove. I like that it gives me full visibility. Some of these, I also like the Yamaha glass windshield because it's the similar design where it doesn't have a metal frame to block your view. And I've driven other vehicles with a glass windshield where that perimeter frame just, especially around corners, it blocks your view. So I'm a big fan of these full windshields, either hard coated or if you get the glass ones where it doesn't obstruct your view. So that's the windshield. I'm using the Yamaha OEM A-arm guards front and rear. I don't mud, so I don't have a problem with mud accumulation. In the rear, I drilled some holes, and I was having some gravel accumulate in the rear guards, but after drilling holes, it doesn't seem to be a problem. You can see I'm using Walker Evans shocks. They've been fabulous. They don't have the adjustability as some of the other aftermarket shocks, but one thing I do like is it's an easy one knob adjustment. So if I want to go softer, I don't have to break my screwdriver out and adjust different settings. I just do one turn of the knob, and it's softer if I'm riding in the rough stuff. And when I get back on the highway, I click it back hard again for stability. I'm also using the Yamaha plastic skids, and that's more for peace of mind than anything else. The Yamaha already has a fully welded steel skid plate, which it gives you good protection, but you have that extra peace of mind when you're going over rocks and boulders that you're not going to tear up the belly. Using my cheapy Harbor Freight 2,500 pound winch, which I don't recommend you guys go with that. Go with something heavier. I just don't have heavy mud holes here, so I never get myself into a situation where I'm going to be stuck. And I use it for plowing mostly. You can see that I'm on the original CV boots and axles on all four. None of my boots have ripped. My steering rack boots still look in good condition, and the bearings on all four wheels are still tight. And this just goes to show you, if you don't go with heavy modifications, lifts, super wide heavy tires, you can make this thing last a long time. When you go into extremes with a 3.5-inch lift, larger than 28-inch tires, you're obviously going to wear stuff out a lot quicker, and especially if you mud. If you keep your upgrades to the +1 type theory, you can make this thing last a long time for normal trail riding, if you're not sending it. Oh, speaking of sending it, 10,000 miles, my shock tower mounts are still straight. I think the pre-2020 guys that were having issues, probably they might have had a bad weld, or they were sending it. And obviously the high lifter kit makes the situation worse. While I'm here, you can see my cheapy heater setup, which sometimes I have to adjust. And you can see my original idea fender well guards to block air, which somebody else copied. We all know who. Tusk Terabytes, great tire. You can see I'm in dire need of replacement. I'm seeing if I can make them last until the new release is out. But I have 7,000 miles on these Terabytes. Half of them road miles, the other half trail. I've got my STI HD5 beadlocks. Great insurance if you get a flat that you can ride out on it. Mine are leaking. One thing I wish I would have done when I installed my tires is remove the flash on the rubber that mounts to the bead. The other thing is dirt gets into these grooves here, and also I noticed when I'm washing my vehicle that I get bubbles on the inside of the rim. So it's real important, when you tighten or install your tires, that you get these things torqued down pretty good from the get-go. Otherwise, dirt can get inside of there and you'll have slow leaks over time. But it's worth it for the peace of mind that you can ride out on a flat tire and not lose a bead. Anything else on this side I'm forgetting? I don't think so. These are my cheapy golf mirrors that I've made stocks for. Work good with the soft cab I have. This soft cab has been a love and hate relationship. And the hate is the zippers. The zippers I replace every season. Not the zipper teeth, but the zipper pull. Once the zipper pull starts to wear, you're going to have your teeth separate, and it's going to be really bad in the winter. Summer it's not so bad. But once you get to the winter and your zipper pull's worn out, you can buy genuine YYK or YKK, I forget which it is, for a couple bucks each, and just replace them every winter or every season. And once you replace them, it opens and closes pretty easily. So that's the soft cab. I no longer use the OEM rear vinyl window. I think Motor Roof makes this rear mesh screen, and I've been using that. It's really great for keeping down the dust. And I don't have to wash it as often as I did the vinyl window. Even with a dusty, you still get great visibility. Mine's actually installed upside down because I have a backup camera. But normally this would be installed up the other way, and this part would end right here. But the other reason why I have it like this is if I have stuff installed here, it helps hold it in place on top of my cargo box. Which, let's get to the cargo box. This is a great Yamaha accessory. It keeps all your stuff held down and secured. So if you have a rollover, you're not going to have all this loose stuff flying. I still have some stuff loose, but it's not as much stuff to go flying around. It also increases your capacity. So the tailgate, OEM tailgate ends here. So you have this extra, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches of depth of storage with the cargo box that you don't have with the tailgate. And plus you have a shelf to put things on top of. So that's that. I have, you can see where I mounted my my license plate. The backup camera is just a cheapy Amazon unit. I use it more for seeing if cars are if there's traffic behind me when I'm trying to pull out backwards. Sliders, I have to be honest, I really haven't had a chance to use them to their potential. I did get a ding on this side, but the rocks, unless you're doing Camp 5 in the Black Hills, there's this, I'm not in Moab, so. But the nice thing about them is if you do rocky, large rocks, you're going to dent up that slider, which you can replace versus your cage. Show you this. This is my gas cap tether mod, so I will never lose my gas cap. Make sure if you use a drill, you don't drill around the, take the cap off and drill it out somewhere away from the tank. Let's go back again. Here you can see my rear A-arm guards and then my HMF exhaust. The HMF exhaust, I'm pretty happy with it. It's not super loud. It is louder than stock, but it's tolerable. It really helps with the on the hills, under load, and high speed. You're actually going to lose a little bit of low end torque. So there's a little bit of a trade-off. But if you do a lot of high speed riding or mid 30s cruising, it lowers your RPMs. Here's my backup light, and you can see my my boots are in excellent condition, and that's because I wash this thing after every ride. I don't use a pressure washer, I just use hose pressure, and I get my brake calipers really good on each wheel, and that's half the reason why I have 10,000 miles on my brakes, which nobody ever else hears of. So washing out your calipers along with the HunterWorks clutch. The HunterWorks clutch sheave combo, it lowers your gear ratio so well that you think your engine braking is good now. Wait until you install a clutch kit sheave. It improves your engine braking that you rarely ever have to use your brakes. So got my cheapy fire extinguisher. I also have a fire extinguisher in the cargo box. I've got these Harbor Freight nets, which they stretch out over time, and they're really only good for light things like paper towel, clothes, blankets. You don't want to put anything heavy in those. I have a picnic blanket here. I know it's funny to see spare belts. Once you start hitting the mileage I do, it's not so ludicrous to carry a spare belt. And I'll get into this sheave in more detail. I got my 2 helmets here for the kids who never ride with us anymore. So with the upcoming release, if it's not a 4-seater from Yamaha, I might be okay with it because our daughter doesn't like to ride with us anymore. This is a cheapy vinyl window I put on between the seats. That helps cut down on dust. And in the wintertime, it helps maintain the heat. So I'm only having to warm up the front section of the cab. Oh, my Harbor Freight winch. I've got the remote, but I've also hardwired it with a switch as well. This is just for my emergency flashers for when I'm on calls, and then I have a light here for at nighttime. See my other cheapy heater duct there, and I just took a piece of foam for the passenger side since it already has a glove box to help block. I suppose I could duplicate the plastic shield I made on the other side. Go back to the inside. You can see my my seat riser mod. Just a bunch of wood I installed to raise it about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch. Give me a little bit more leg room. Turn signal kit. This is great. You know, having your horn here, you don't have to fumble for the switches. Ryko makes a kit, and if it's a good kit, it's just I was cheap and wanted to do it cheaper, so I bought this switch and bought my own lights. But having your horn and turn signal where you don't have to look for where it is, get inside here. So it's right at my fingertips, so I don't have to fumble and find out where my horn switch is or my light switch is. I can do it without looking. Some of you guys complain that you don't know you get these two mixed up. It's pretty simple. You just feel for the bottom most, and you know the bottom one is, if you remember, it's light. The one above it is gear. So as long as you do it by feel, you don't have to look and see where they are. I installed a pull noodle there to help block out some of the dust. Also, you can see my steering wheel. I put some more pull noodles to help block dust. And that's another thing to consider is when you start blocking the air coming in for dust, keep in mind you're also blocking that airflow. So you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So while you're reducing the dust intrusion, you're also blocking that natural airflow that keeps the cab cool. So if you do these mods, and you have a full windshield, you're gonna have more heat. The solution to that is to install Thermotech on your tunnel. I've installed Thermotech here, as well as insulated my my coolant lines. Here's the ducts for my cheapy heater, and this works quite well. It actually keeps you nice and warm in plowing snow. This is my cell phone holder. Works pretty good. I like that it blocks light, so when I have it in here, I don't have glare from the sun. I can see the display pretty easy. There's my dash cam, and this is where I mount my PowerVision 3 tuner display. I just plug it in and then mount it here. That way I can record data and see how fast I'm going in RPMs and whatnot. Here's I might as well turn this on. Here's my backup cam. And it's dual fan setup, $20. That keeps the windshield from fogging up under humidity. Got the Yamaha rear view mirror, which doesn't vibrate like some of the cheaper ones. The other thing, this thing, my engine starts up the first time, every time. Doesn't matter how cold or hot it is outside. I think there's maybe 6 times in 10,000 miles, less than I can count on 2 hands, where it hasn't started on the first try. So original brake pads, original axles, original battery, fuel pump I haven't changed, the starter I haven't changed, and the synthetic fluids and the additives, they make it easier to start. It starts nice and quick and easy. The synthetic helps with that, along with the HunterWorks additives. But the Iridium plugs, MGK Iridium plugs, they're stock plugs to Iridium. It's a big improvement. I mean, you're not going to get whiplash from it, but everyone who's done it, mostly everyone who's done it, has noticed really good results with the Iridium plugs. Let's see what else. As far as modifications back here, this is I have a sprayer I keep with me to wash off my windshield. You can see I've cut out the foot base here, and this gives me a whole bunch of storage in here. There's a whole bunch of storage that you get when you remove that section. It also makes your CVT easier to get to. You guys thinking that you can go 10,000 miles on a belt. Well, yeah, the belt might last 10,000 miles, but you still have to service your sheaves. And I'm glad Yamaha released a bulletin that gives that schedule. I believe it's every 1,600 miles you need to service your primary and secondary sheaves. And this is important because when you do that, you know, the Yamaha CVT is bulletproof, but with the added weight of the X2, X4, the added power and torque, some things we took for granted before, which lasted forever, are now replaceable items. They're wearable items. Your rollers and your secondary spring cup, those are going to be things you're going to replace on your service intervals, and you're spending like maybe 60, 70 bucks for new rollers, a new secondary spring cup, and for seals. Yamaha does have a new part number out for the secondary spring cup, and hopefully that'll last longer to where it's not a replaceable item. You're still going to have to possibly replace your rollers, though. One good thing about the rollers is, you know, once they flat spot, they're not going to leave you stranded. They might hurt your top speed, but they'll actually give you a little bit more low end. It's like adding kind of like adding a shim. Your cam plate rides lower, and you get a better lower starting ratio. Let me take the hood off here. So cleaning out the radiator is pretty easy. Take the hood off and you have a direct shot to it in there. Some mods I've done here is I've Swiss cheese the airbox lid. That's more for top speed sustainability. And then I've cut out this area here so my CVT gets a direct shot, a more direct shot of air. I also, when I'm cleaning out my CVT, I'll put a blower here and blow air through there. And while I'm doing that, I have my air injection port here, and that goes to a port on the CVT cover, which it makes blowing out my greaseless sheave very easy. I can blow out my sheave in a matter of 5 or 10 minutes, depending if I have help or not. I simply put the transmission in neutral, I'll rev up the RPMs, and then I'll release the air gun to blow out the air. And I do that at least every 500 miles, sometimes more often if it's super dusty. I have PV3 installed by DynoJet. I used to have the weather flash. Works great. You can see I keep my engine pretty clean. Oh, the air filter. Yamaha did a really good job on the X2, X4's air filters. This thing stays very clean. And, you know, at first time I cleaned my air filter, it was like 4,000 miles. And it looks as good as this one with, I think this has maybe, you know what? This air filter has 7,000 miles on it. So being up high, it really does a good job of keeping it clean. And if you look at my pictures from my 9,000 mile post, you can see how clean my intake is. So I know the air filters are doing a good job. What else? I think that's it. Let me stick this back on. So there you have it. The only thing I've really had to replace of any significant cost is my secondary sheave, and that's because that was before Yamaha put out the maintenance schedule. Had I replaced, serviced it at that interval, my secondary sheave might have lasted longer. But we're talking 10,000 miles, guys. You know, many of you guys are going to put half that kind of mileage on your vehicles. So there you have it. Am I missing anything? Oh, my tag, my trail tag. I hate having to remove it from the glass, so I just made a piece of plastic, mounted it to a cage clamp, and I can just scrape it off of there versus having to mess up my windshield. What else, Romeo? What are you forgetting? Oil change. Make sure you new guys, you newbies, make sure you change your oil according to the manual. It's not a wet sump oil system, it's a dry sump. And this isn't a Yamaha thing. This is typical to dry sumps. You have to get it to a specific operating temperature and follow the instruction manual to a T. You can't check the oil level or change it like you do a wet sump. And trust me, the benefits of having a dry sump oil system are worth the headaches of trying to check your oil level. So that's another thing. I have my skid plates on so you can't see it, but there's normally a hole over here for the engine air intake drain. If there's oil coming out of there, you have your oil overfilled. There's also a hose clear inspection cover with a spring clamp on older models. You want to replace that spring clamp with a worm clamp. Yamaha's already updated the clamp on it on models coming off out of the factory now, but for all you guys with the older clamp, make sure you replace that. Check your, let's see if I can get in here. See that dual clamp on the air box? You'll have 4 of those. 2 right here and 2 underneath the tunnel. Double check and make sure those are installed properly and tight. I do have a post on Wolverine forums that shows you how to check to see if you have a leak. You basically, on the engine air, I should have done this while I had this off, on the snorkel side over here, just cover it with the engine running. If your engine dies and you don't hear sucking, it's probably pretty tight. If your engine keeps on running, you probably have a leak somewhere. So make sure you do that check. The Yamaha roof is really nice. This is double shelled. You have a top shell and it's solid. You could put have a tailgate party up here. So if you guys are looking for storage, you know, there's you have options for placing stuff up top. It's a really well designed roof. Your brake pedal. There's an adjuster. Where'd you go? Right there. My hose is covered. There's a adjustment here, as well as under the behind the firewall cowling to adjust your gas pedal. When you adjust it, make sure you don't overdo it. So you hear that tapping? It's my throttle cable bottoming out. If you adjust this to where too much slack is taken out, if you're in the habit of stomping your gas pedal, you can break that throttle cable stop off. Oh, my sun's back out. I was hoping to do this whole video without the sun coming out. So I used to have cracks here. It took about 7,000 miles for it to occur. My suggestion is to reinforce the floorboard before that happens. I simply just took some plastic and melted it on the backside and beefed up that area. So mine's fixed and beefed up, so we're good there. Spunky's coming out to check the, what do you think, Spunky? You think you like the Wolverine X4? Yeah, she does. So that's it, guys. You know, the Wolverine X2, X4, it really has a lot over the competition. It was the last compact four-seater to come out, but it's the best compact four-seater to come out. And you'll be hard-pressed to find a sport recreational vehicle that can compete with it, both in quality as well as its compact nature of being able to do tight technical trails and not having to worry about, you know, your CVT. So there you have it. That's my 10,000 mile review. I'm looking at getting whatever Yamaha is releasing this fall to replace this. If for some reason it's way, if it's a limousine four-seater, I probably won't get it. I'll probably put another 20,000 miles on this. But I'm really looking forward to getting their new model, which should be sportier, and I'm thinking it's going to be a rock crawler. So we'll see. So thanks for watching. There you have it. 10,000 miles. Forgot, HunterWorks sheave. What does the HunterWorks sheave get you? It gets you lower lows, higher highs, improves your wet clutch life, improves your engine braking. My wet clutch, it's got 10,000 miles on it, which is unheard of. Part of that's from the HunterWorks lower starting ratio, but in addition to using synthetics along with engine butter, that's helped get me to 10,000 miles on my wet clutch. And if I have to keep this vehicle, I think I can get to 14,000 miles on my wet clutch, which is probably unheard of. So HunterWorks clutch, that's a must-do mod in my book. And Power Vision 3. Initially we had the weather flash, which is good. The Power Vision 3 just takes it to an extra level. It is a little bit harder to flash, but if you know somebody who already has one, it's actually cheaper. You just pay for the license, which is $200 for an additional license. So hopefully as more people get Power Vision 3, they'll be willing to flash their friends' units for them at a reduced cost. And I'll add more if there's something for seat jugular mod. I've lowered my seatbelt anchor from the stock location here down to here, and it doesn't cut into your jugular anymore. And how could I forget the kidney saver mod? So that's, let me open the other door. This is your stock, and picking on Yamaha engineers, really, this is probably the worst. Besides the air intake drain, this is probably the other thing you can beat up on them for. As in my other video, once you own this for a while, your muscle memory gets you past this. But some of you larger fellows, if this is a thing preventing you from buying the X4 or X2, you can't slim it down. So that's my kidney saver mod, and that's detailed more in another video. I told you about the Thermotech there. I also put Thermotech underneath the rear bed, and that helps with the rear passengers getting hot. Keep in mind that the X4 and the X2 are the coolest running amongst the competition, but it can be made better. So, some of the things I forgot. Thanks.